Okay, this is going to be interesting this morning because I've basically been in a meta state since about in Pacific time 2:44 this morning. I just didn't want to leave where I'm sitting. It's quite remarkable, really. The sun comes up here every morning, and so at 3:44 Pacific Mountain time, I I was with Praline's mother. It's always hard to describe what it's like for me as a cellular empath. It isn't like I can will it, it's more like it's available. It's an invitation. It gives me, it is part of the territory of my being. So I had told Praline I just wanted to be with her mom this morning. No concern, no worry. But I know what it's like to have surgery one day at 90 years old and then 2 days later have it again. And I just wanted to merge with her mom's cellular system so she had the extra booster for her journey of wholeness. So that was one thing. The other thing is that this is the room I can't ever be in. I have been terrified to walk in this room, to go to bed, because the agony of the loss of Lily physically was overwhelming. And I would wake up stifling a panic attack every morning. But this morning was all celebration. It was just all celebration. But I wasn't able to get out of the meta state I've been in since 3:44 this morning, Mountain Time. And I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting. How do I be in this state that sometimes when I'm in this state, I can be here for 6 or 7 hours. And I never had to do a Facebook Live, or never chose to do a Facebook Live. In the middle of it, it's my privacy. It's for the broad spectrum of my being and my avatar personality merge together and gain more strength, stamina, and capacity for the realms of reality of which we're a part. And so I couldn't leave the room. This was the room of celebration. And I have my iPad on. I'm on my computer now. If something happens and I beep off because she's in her last of days, this precious computer I've had for a long time, I'll just come back on my phone. So just bear with me if something happens. But I also Pasaro from Damanhur, when it all began, when the shock of separation slammed into me, shock of physical and spiritual separation in the beginning. He told me to play water. So my iPad is playing the water that I have been playing for 4 weeks. Lily transitioned from her physical body 4 weeks ago today. And I'm also playing a solfeggio. I have this very long solfeggio list that lets me wander and when you wake up in the morning, you're human. I don't know how to do this well, but you're compacted again. And just like you stretch or brush your teeth or take a walk, you unpack yourself. Well, you unpack yourself spiritually too, at least I do. And usually I do this at night because I like to travel. I like to dream walk. I like to wander around, say hi to people's spirits, and I like to blend into the universe. So I have this solfeggio playlist that, I don't know, maybe it's 3 hours long, so that I'm not limited to the 3D world, But the most beautiful thing about this room and I wake up at, Lily and I used to wake up, well, she'd wake up at 5:44 every morning Pacific and then get me up. It was our routine. Routine's the hardest to lose in the physical world, especially if it's been bliss and intimate and fun and took up a lot of time. But the most beautiful thing every morning is when the sun comes up. So I apologize for the shadows and the sun, but I wanted you to sit in the sun with me. I didn't want to move from this bed, and I just wanted to include you. I just wanted to see how I'd be including you, although it's not so bad. It's not so. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just odd how we can go into our intimacy and to the deepest parts of ourselves, but then we sort of have to come out to be with people, and I didn't. Thank you. I didn't have to come out. I could meet you you could meet me at the gate. So when I had COVID, one of the things Dr. Chari told me was to be out in the sun for 45 minutes between certain hours in the morning and in the afternoon. It's one of the last pictures I have of Lily, because she was in the shade. But there's something about the healing power of the sun that's remarkable. So every morning when I was, terrified to face another day, here would come the sun, right smack dab in the window. An hour ago, it would have been blinding. I looked at the screen and it was blinding. You couldn't see me for the light of the sun. But it's met me every morning. It's kept me warm and filled me with light. And held me. Whether it's Ra, the source of all life, or a daughter of the central sun, I don't know. I just know the immense gratitude I have for through these last 4 weeks, every morning, it's met me here, faithfully. Let me cough. So when I got up it's hard to explain. It's why I do the work I do, because the sentient intelligence, the empathic response is supposed to be the largest part of our nature, not our mental perception. And the creation exercises, field phenomenon that we do with the meetings we're in today, it's all transmission to remove the mental barrier to the worlds that we're part of, the realms of reality that we participate in. And we often experience those realms of reality, but they're so distinctly different from your to-do list and your daily routine that they often get squashed before they can become part of the anatomy of your being. It was the original gift of COVID, was the other realms could come in. There was a stillness in humanity that had not been there for a long time. And the other realms could make their way into this 3D world, just like the sun can shine its light on my shut down system, struggling to feel again, and I warm up, there's a ray of hope. There's a feeling that there's more. So I was very curious about this morning, and I thought I'd come out of it to do Facebook Live, but I didn't. I went from being with Praline's mom in her own fears, in her own concerns, in her own worries, the part she's too brave and mature, a very, very deep soul to share with others. But then at 5:44, which was always true, it didn't matter what time zone Lily and I were in or where I was. If she was back home, 5:44 was the magical number. But then 5:44 started coming, and I don't have the I don't know quite what to do about this, because we have a private community on a messaging board called Tapa Talk, and it's where I build fields. It's where I build a relationship with the greater systems of creation, and others do too. Some don't realize they are, and some do. But so I have this whole thread called Honoring Death, because I wanted to track the journey. I knew what I was about. I knew what Lily and I were about. That we'd just never been separated. And it just seemed weird that we would be separated. And the pain felt wrong. And the trauma felt incorrect. There should be, I know death. I've died 19 times. I know there's a joy and a freedom and a release and oh my God, I can't even tell you, the sensory system even gets stronger. It just doesn't have pain. Intimacy gets richer and love gets so full. You're as big as the ocean and as wide as the sky. And the joy of unity, of connection is breathtaking. And Lily was great because I got to have that in my physical world pretty every day without measure. We had a couple of spats, but for the most part, it was total. So I knew my body, I was going to give my body a chance. It just had to remember paradise, the physical substance of my human spirit and my body needed to remember paradise. But I tracked it all on honoring death, and it's too much to talk here because it was a minute to minute process. It was holding in the barbed wire of at the edge of separation, screaming, bloody and anguish, saying, "No, this is not real. No, this is not real." And I could look over. In fact, Tosh wrote me today, and there was this in the realm of reality that I was moving in. I kept seeing Anubis, and while in my logical mental thinking, which is very different than your experiential state, Lily had always been Anubis, but I didn't have the linkage. It was all flat. It didn't have substance. But out of the corner of my eye, in this realm of this borderland, a barren borderland that hurts human beings with its barbed wire separation from life, I could see another activity in the territory I was moving in. But till this morning, when Tosh sent me a message telling me what she'd been paying attention to and where she'd been at work. I couldn't identify why this other aspect, this other, I don't know, journey, activity was present, but I wasn't present to it. And this morning, in very synchronic time, even that piece of the puzzle was filled in. But I could look over and see who was keeping me from being too parched, too dried out, who was just enough that my weariness would not overcome me. The power of community, the power of oneness, really. Power of oneness. So finally, something I haven't done since 1997, when I had terminal cancer. Obviously, you saw how that went. I called out, I screamed out, I needed technical help. I wrote Saima, asked her if she'd help Lily and I, and she said certainly. And I WhatsApped Shama, and she told me Orango would work with me, who deals with transitioning loss and separation back into unity. And I called Kate, my homeopath, my beautiful, beautiful, otherworldly, normal homeopath. And then my friend Diane asked me to contact a woman named Patricia, who works with light beings to heal rifts of reality. I know it sounds strange maybe to have this conversation because human beings, oh shit, hold on. Sorry about that. My this old computer, if I kick off the plug to it, it'll just die. So we had our brief shock. Trying to get my leg out from under me. Hold on a minute. Okay, there we go. So because I needed the ones that knew about the beyond, that had crossed the borders, that had the ways that allowed for the limitation, the reality of separation, to not have a hold on them. So then 2 days ago, or yesterday, the days are blurred, I did my session with Kate. I had been working with Orango, listening to Falco's transmission every morning at 5. I did all of it. I compacted into time, because the key is, in the work we're doing in timeless time, the key is to create an event horizon, to compact everything in a very solid moment of time. This is only if you're trying to boot yourself out of something, if you're trying to, like, imagine if I was caught on barbed wire, then I need a whole bunch of power to grab me and jerk me off the wire. So it's that kind of feeling. And so they were all lined up. I've been working with Orango and the Baita and the Oracle and Shaman. I had the people who were tending to me with texts and videos and just genuine care expressed through their whatever came to mind. But I did it all in a 24-hour period. I set it all up between Patricia and Kate, and I'd done 2 days with Orango. And it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, and it popped. I was off the barbed wire. I was free to be with Lily and me. Small poem. And it was just so. It's just remarkable. We have these intentions, these interests, these cravings. But I come from the field of Tantra Maat, and Tantra is the realm of the union of heaven and earth. And Maat is a gatekeeper. She's where the soul stays balanced, so that it can experience eternity and temporality with no separation of planes, no separation between the two. So I pretty much couldn't believe it at a mental level, because the grip in my gut and my heart and the just searing agony I was in was gone. But even more than that, I'm not going to talk too much about this. It's way too unbelievable. And most people think it's my imagination, but it isn't. I learned. I learned how we can corporealize, like I can put my hand on the pillow here. And then I don't know if I can do this well, but I can corporealize Lily. And she's there with me doing that. And I literally, where my hand is, it doesn't feel like a pillow. It feels like Lily's head. It literally does. It does. And what I was having trouble with was I couldn't find the meta point. I couldn't find the way of transition between the dematerialized realm and the materialized realm. I can't explain what it's like. I'm learning, and I love it. I'm learning. I'm learning how to move between the etheric registers in my system. For those of you who have the accordion image that I created, so I can move from so above to so below. But that still point right in the middle, that's shaky. So this morning it wasn't the gripping agony. It wasn't the panic attack. It wasn't anything like that. And for the first time, I had some navigational ability, probably through Kate's remedy and through all the light beings that Patricia informed me about around me. I could draw on multiple intelligences, and I could tell I was gripping up. That the angst was creeping in, and I think Lily must have been off and about somewhere. And even though I could say to myself, she'll be back, my system couldn't hold it. So I put on the transmission from Falco again, and I turned it on, and I laid down and began my meditation. And this time I could participate. This time I had enough gold threads of consciousness that lays beyond the wasteland of separation that I could draw them. I could be a participant. I don't think we have words for it, but I could participate. I could rebuild my system as a meta point between heaven and earth, between the non-physical and physical, between spirit and flesh. Hopefully, that's my next endeavor, but between the eternal and the temporal for sure. See, we really are never meant to be separate. Why would we be a one-soul species? Why would we be a one-soul species if we were to separate from each other? I know. We don't know we don't have the registers hardly at all anymore of our unity with each other. I understand that. That doesn't mean we aren't made that way. So I'm really thrilled to have a working relationship with the meta point of the eternal and the temporal. And I'm building I don't know if I'm building or discovering, pretty sure, I think Lily had already built it in our terms, because sometimes because the image image is a problem. I'll tell you the three things I've learned, if you're interested. One is image is a problem because you objectified the image, like your car or your house, and you aren't in the state of experience that the image carries. You aren't in its larger ether. You aren't in its what it provides for you. So if you loved your house or loved your car, it's that love and the texture and the and the fragrance of that love and that adoration, that sweetness, that's the ethers. So I knew that Lily was out of form, but my memory, this is part two, but I work in time territories and I work in time quadrants and I work in timeless time, which means like when you dream, you're in timeless time. When you imagine, you're in timeless time. When you crave or long, you're in timeless time. It's not living in the calendar, but it's far more real than the calendar because you can live there without it ever becoming physical. But when we got obsessed into thinking that the physical world was the only real world, we lost these capacities. But our spirit world is the real world. And this is our temporality. This is our temporal form. So every time Lily, I would have an image, a memory of Lily, this crushing angst and panic would hit me. But no more, because she's now diffused into the greater universe. And she has a loka with me, and I have a loka with her. But because I'm capable of diffusing, because I'm capable of particleizing, which we're all supposed to be, that's what meditation is. That's what moving into alpha, not beta, but alpha, delta, alpha, theta is all about particleization. And then gamma and O are complete particleization. It's where you're a particle field. So I've been experiencing Lily and I particleize together, which is like what we feel when we are dying or right after we die. Suddenly the flesh doesn't have any boundaries. But we're supposed to be able to do this alive, not just when we're dead. So there's this amazing experience of being able to drift into this shared particleization. Jeremy had that too. And then in timeless time, there's a time territory outside of time where because I can diffuse and particleize, I can then come back into memory as if it's in the moment of time, as if it is a moment of time. So I can still go into that meta point, that meta state of a meta reality that in that meta reality that goes beyond the reality we were born into, I can still have that memory of feeding her, but I really am back there, like a virtual reality, like a video game. I can go back and I can go, not back, but I can go into that memory in our memory time territory. And I can relive it now without pain over and over again if I want to, because it was fun and it was sweet and it was adorable and it was awesome. When Jeremy died, my son, when he was 5, this is why I thought I could do it. I thought, but I couldn't have done it without all of you that were there with me. And even those of you who have written me and said, I've been in shock and so sad. I haven't been able to communicate. That's connection. That doesn't require chatter or talk. It's incredibly real. But when Jeremy died, which was very sudden, he went to sleep, had a fever, went into a coma, and died 5 days later. But he would come back to me in my dreams. And then in my dreams, this is where I became a dream walker. In my dreams, we would go, the one I remember the most, because once he took me out to where the stars, where he lived now. It's like standing in the middle of the sky, and out there beyond our solar system, and him showing me his one of his new forms, one of his new locations. But the one I'll never forget as long as I live, because other things would happen too, like I'd be asleep and he'd put his hand on my hand, and just, that borderline of dream state where something's really there until you open your eyes and it's not there. But he used to put his hand on my hand in the middle of the night, and I learned not to wake up, but just to lay in a meta state as long as I could, feeling his hand. And then it was like the code. And then I drift into dream state. And the one I remember the most is we went fishing. I remember it clearly now. And now that I have my new understanding, my new capacity, perhaps, maybe I can even recreate that and give it a place in my time territory. It'd be so cool. But how I knew that Jeremy moved me back and forth between worlds is when I woke up from our fishing expedition, because I'd been showing him how to take the hook out of the fish. I smelled like fish. My hands were just as fishy can be. But I didn't have the skill. I was sort of at the effect of the phenomenon. And but with Lily being like Jeremy, with no template for separation, I got to take this journey again. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. And my body is still weird. So at 5:44, when I was left Praline's mother's side, because I realized that I was back in that drift again. It's like a drift. And that when you're in that drift, it hurts because you don't have the mechanics. It's like, imagine you're going down a hill and you pull your car out of first gear and it's in neutral, and you're drifting, and that's not a good idea. You want to be able to put it in third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, so that you can be directional. We're meant to be directional spiritually and etherically. It's what meditation is. That's what journeying is. That's what craving exercises are. You're meant to have a rudder in the drift and a pole or a steering wheel or an oar. And when that drift happens, I think that heart and the solar plexus begin to fluctuate between life and death. Yeah. And then you can't be afraid of either. I can't explain it. That's why so many of us that have been at death's door, like with Lily, I didn't fear her death. I feared her dying. I don't fear my death. I fear the method of my dying. But Lily did it so skillfully. I'm pretty sure I can orchestrate my own in that same level of pristine tenderness that she did it. I have a marker. But I knew I was in that drift, and it, I'm having to take care of my physical body. I've gained weight. I'm fatigued. It's not used to this level of vibrational rigor. All the past losses stored in my cellular memory are roaring through my physical body, because mostly people experience through their emotional body, but my emotional body is quite sturdy, and my my emotional being is quite sturdy. My spirit being is quite sturdy. My mental being is quite sturdy. My physical being is not as sturdy. But I've got help with that too. So I felt the drift, so I immediately put on Falco's transmission. And then I let Shama know so she could let Orango know. Only this time, I could track it. I could track myself in the drift because of the soreness in my chest, the tenderness in my chest. I still have it. But I could separate that tenderness from trauma. It's just a physical response to an etheric shock of separation. It takes longer, at least up until recently, it takes longer for the physical body to recover from any change or shock or sudden separation. It takes, something new. It takes the physical body longer to regenerate because we don't carry a lot of Shakti. We don't carry high chi bodies. And I haven't figured some things out, like the problem after I had COVID was that I was, my Shakti, my chi was depleted because I used it to survive. So when Lily died, I think there was something magical about it because the veil was so thin that I couldn't untangle I couldn't shut the system down. I can't, and I know people want to stay dormant, and I know they want to stay numb, and I know they just want to stay gratified for the large part or just have something take care of them. But I can't stress enough how wonderful it is to be part of creation, to be in the oneness of creation. So I could look tired, I could look heavier, I could look older, but it's okay. It's okay. My spirit is free. My spirit is free to be. And now I can start the technical journey of building my body to be a vibrational field within which my spirit has a home at the next level. Yep. So thank you for being in my meditation with me. You know, awakening is never a done deal. It's all about being able to build the strength, stamina, capacity of the original nature of your original design. In the field of Tantra Maat, there are governing principles. Everything's part of everything else. So how could I believe that which I love, not just Lily and Jeremy, but my parents, my friends, all that's opening up to me, all of it. So how could I go against that principle? I'm part of Lily, she's part of me. I'm part of you, you're part of me. That's that oneness thing everybody talks about as a cure for separation and not as what reality actually is. And the other one is everything operates on behalf of everything else. And at that, in those 3+4 days of agony, I knew something was operating on behalf of life. Just because I don't live for it doesn't. I know we're in a world of enemies, but not me. The fact I was incapable, the fact that I was at the effect of it, the fact that I didn't have the strength or stamina for what was before me doesn't mean life wasn't operating on my behalf. And I was operating on behalf of all life. Lily and I, and others, not just Lily and I. Because that's her deal with me, that she never leaves me. She never did. You know, she would yell at me when I'd come back from a trip she couldn't go on, because that was her clarity by my side until that's complete. If it ever is, hope not. It's fun. Everything's part of everything else. Everything's operates on behalf of everything else, and everything has a place. So our etheric union has a place, and to create openings and doorways that allow our sensory system to experience it here would be a great journey for humankind. The Druids had it, the Wiccans had it, the Egyptians had it, the ancient worlds had it. There was no division. I watched 3 movies over the last few days, and I can't remember the other 2, but I was always startled that the movie I was drawn to was a puzzle piece. In other words, imagery and imagination helps build your capacity. And I don't remember the other 2. I wish I did, but they were so spot on. They were so taking care of a piece of the puzzle I needed to have the capacity for. But the one I watched last night was Ready, Play, Go. And you can buy these, and you can actually buy these virtual suits that you wear across your whole body like a scuba diving thing. But in the virtual reality, and we'll have this in our lifetime if it's not around already for probably $1 million. But the virtual world, your physical body could experience what you're experiencing in the virtual world. And the minute I saw it, because I'd been working with the fact that I could really feel this unity point, these unity points of activating my skin so that I could feel her again. And I could, and her, it's like, that was the other piece I wanted to say. It's like there's this etheric world, like now we could still go to bed together and we still wake up together. Well, not this morning, but usually. But then there's the physical world where you can activate your senses. Like Ma has that big time. I was teaching a course in Cork, no, it was some other place in Ireland. And I had Ma's picture on my billfold. And someone asked me to see a picture of her. And when I pulled the picture out, the smell of jasmine permeated the room to the point it was actually obnoxious. Because Ma has that etheric capacity to blend her energy into the physical reality, and therefore she can activate our sensory smell. I still smell her. So I've just been activating my sensory memory, my sensory intelligence, because all those aspects are capacities. The capacity to never feel alone again, because you can activate the feeling of being in the wind last Thursday, or you can feel the wind across your face again. That's why this period of time is so startling, because all these sensory systems are coming back online, and we feel, mostly human beings, and I definitely did the last 3 weeks, feel at the effect of them, like we're hypersensitive or hyper vibrational. Well, you have the ability to guide what your senses pick up on. They can pick up on agony or ecstasy. Same on the biofeedback machine. Pick up unity or separation, togetherness or loneliness. And all I knew was what I was experiencing was some trauma in my system that I needed to transmute with great help back into life force energy so that my sensory system registered paradise. You know, it's upon us. It's upon us. The system, the new systems we're part of. It's upon us. That's all I know how to say. I remember years ago, because I've been in business a long time, I remember years ago just being forlorn about human beings because they were so attached to trauma. Not like by choice, like they were like the tar baby. And they didn't know they could develop registers for paradise, or I don't know, whatever word you want to use, heaven, happiness, whatever you pick. And I knew the systems were coming back online and that it would be a shock to a dormant system. We're so dormant because we once used to be so virile, so alive, so. And I'm not there yet. I promise you. I am weary and I am weak and I am sluggish. But that I am is not me. That I am is my physical experience. My I am got past the border. And then I'm going to stay past the border. I'm going to New Mexico for a month to go out on the mesas and the other places that I have developed relationships and see how deeply I can blend beyond the 3D just to make it easier for people that take the journey of oneness, of wholeness, of being one with creation, of operating on behalf of all life. You know, nothing's more beautiful than having a result from your own work. I'm deeply appreciative of the people in restoring the GOD matrices. I'm deeply appreciative of those that come onto Facebook Live. I'm deeply appreciative of the community call the first Wednesday of every month that is exploring the awakening, generating, organizing designs of creation of which we're a part. I deeply appreciate those who have stood by me and Lily. I deeply appreciate where we are right now. And there might not be many that take this journey. But remember, it only takes a few to change everything. And David Hawkins talks about once you can reach 500, it only requires a few people vibrating out beyond the veil, no longer snookered by separation, for the light to shine on everyone. Thank you for your life and for the part you've played in mine. Thank you for being in meditation with me today and wandering around with me in the meta realities that I am beginning to become a part of at the next greater whole.